What if I told you that the next conflict would not be between East and West, but an explosion from within? In the book, The Globalization Trap, the authors, Hans Peter Martin and Harold Schuman, predict a dark future. A class struggle within Western societies themselves. While globalization leaves behind increasing unemployment and a huge wealth gap, cities are turning into fortified camps for the rich, for fear of the wrath of the hungry. Did you know that 358 billionaires control the world's economy? And that capitalism is transforming civilization into a society of the rich fifth versus 4/5 of poverty.
The real struggle and clash that the world will witness in the future will be an internal class struggle within Western society itself, rather than a conflict with Arabs, Muslims, or others, as stated in The Globalization Trap, 1996. Unemployment has become widespread in Western countries and is an issue that continues to grow. Globalization has led to two major problems: rising unemployment due to the massive shift toward automation, which has resulted in millions of job losses, and a severe overproduction crisis where supply vastly exceeds demand and production outpaces consumption. Globalization will not solve this crisis because, as Bernard Shaw put it, the world is like my bald head and my thick beard, abundance in production and poor distribution. There is a growing and alarming gap between the rich and the poor. The failures and setbacks of globalization are becoming apparent, as has been the case with most major historical transformations. This new global system is causing the deaths of people in the global south at a rate comparable to the victims of Hiroshima due to hunger and malnutrition. The number of marginalized individuals in Western societies has increased, and the concept of the welfare state that once benefited the West is fading. Terrifying statistics confirm this reality. For instance, 358 billionaires control the global economy, and there is a strategic global plan by industrial world leaders to shape the future under Western civilization with the slogan, "A society where 1/5 are wealthy and 4/5 are poor." This explains the growing social tensions worldwide, such as xenophobia in industrialized nations, the marginalization of vulnerable groups, rising crime and violence, and the spread of drug use. This does not signify the end of history in the sense of capitalism's victory, as claimed by Francis Fukuyama. Instead, it marks the end of an era in which the world aspired to progress and prosperity for all on moral grounds, and the beginning of a new phase characterized by enrichment for the few and marginalization for the majority through unethical means. As Martin and Schumann put it, class disparity, economic deterioration, environmental destruction, and cultural decline have become the defining aspects of daily life for the vast majority of humanity. This situation is a ticking time bomb, capable of exploding at any moment. In The Globalization Trap, Hans Peter Martin and Harold Schuman describe how luxury has become ubiquitous and impossible to conceal. They warn of the potential consequences if the hungry masses rise up against the elite, who have confined themselves within fortified enclaves, such as Alphaville, an elite district surrounded by high walls, floodlights, and electronic surveillance systems. These exclusive compounds can be found in the United States, particularly in Beverly Hills, as well as in coastal areas of France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, New Delhi, Singapore, Australia, South Africa, and Brazil. This is evidence of the decline of modern civilization and the destructive role of capitalism, which has thrived on injustice and greed. These elites retreat into their gated communities, fearing the wrath of the hungry, unaware that excessive luxury is a sign of impending societal collapse, just as Ibn Khaldun warned. The Quran also alludes to this fate in Surah Al-Isra, verses 16 to 17. Despite this, the world is still orchestrated by a single symphony called globalization, playing to the tune of free trade, open borders, and the unrestricted flow of information and technology. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, aimed to dismantle economic barriers and liberalize trade, followed by the World Trade Organization, WTO, which now includes 134 countries, most of which are developing nations. Some believe that the enthusiasm of major powers for globalization is driven by ulterior motives. Globalization has been described as a grand conspiracy, with powerful economies entrapping weaker nations, widening the gap between the rich and the poor. There is clear inequality in how globalization benefits different countries, particularly in the realms of economics, communications, information, finance, and trade. This dominance also extends to Western control over news and information, shaping narratives in ways that serve their interests. Through media, Western powers promote their principles, ideas, and behaviors, attempting to push developing nations toward adopting Western and American lifestyles through various dazzling techniques. This admiration inevitably leads these populations to support Western and American positions. Moreover, this media hegemony facilitates the marketing of Western products by promoting consumer culture and encouraging developing nations to mimic Western industrial societies in their consumption habits. This is the core strategy of the new global order, which seeks to ensure prosperity and comfort for its own populations through both legitimate and illegitimate means, while imposing intellectual concepts that contradict the ethical values of the majority of people in the West itself. The elites who lack sound moral values and ethical principles are the ones controlling capital in these countries, yet they remain a minority. Although the United States represents the pinnacle of global imperialism, the so-called Great Satan, or the center of globalization and hegemony, American society is inherently conservative. It is among the most traditional of Western societies, placing strong emphasis on family values, social traditions, and religious beliefs.